Hey guys, how are you going? Dave here. Awesome to have you with us. Casey, nice to see you. Hamish, who came in and might have gone back out again. I'm not exactly sure what's happening. Look, so I'm going to be getting a few things organised as we go here. Basically what's happening with this session is this is going to be probably a fairly short and definitely a very casual chat about space. I think the big difference with this session tonight is that I have purposefully done absolutely nothing at all to advertise it. I haven't told anyone. All I did was schedule it on YouTube. I haven't told anyone on Facebook, and I'm not doing it on Facebook. I'm only doing this one on YouTube. So it's kind of an experiment to see what would happen if absolutely no one knows that I'm doing it. So good on you, Casey. I should have known that you'd show up. As I say, it's going to be really casual. I have made an effort to not prepare much of anything for this. I just want to come on and see if anyone wants to join in and talk about stuff. So there's a few things that I am trying. One of them is that I really do want to get the YouTube chat going, you know, the ongoing saga. It looks to me like it's not, our widget is not connecting, but what I'm going to do is I've actually got just a separate browser window open so that I can just go in and see the comments like that. So I probably will try and fix that little widget off to, well, what's below me right now. But I'm not going to get too stressed if we can't get it going. I also do have the Zoom meeting open if anyone's interested in that. And I'll tell you one other thing. No, first of all, the Zoom thing. The details here, if you do want to try joining the Zoom meeting, go for your life, but I'm not going to get too stressed about that either. The other thing is, my system around here, I have completely rearranged everything. I've actually got a couple of new keypads, so everything's in the wrong place. So if I keep switching to the wrong source like I did just before, please be understanding. So that's that. So, right, yes, so I can see the chat here. Yep, I think we're pretty much good to go. So what I'm going to do is I've just got a few news stories that I noticed during the week, and I made a note of them, and we can go and have a look at those web pages. And of course we've got the Mars Perseverance, and it's worth doing just a quick catch up with what's happened with that. Now, just in case there's anyone from the Hamilton Astronomical Society watching, I'm supposed to be speaking at the observatory tomorrow night about Mars Perseverance, but of course we're back in level 2 for COVID, so that's not happening. We're doing it virtually, so make sure you get the link. Get hold of us if you don't have the link to join that virtually. To be honest, there's not an awful lot to catch up with on the Perseverance mission just yet, I don't think, but there's a few things that I'll show you in a minute. Casey, yeah, well, let's talk about Mars. Yeah, of course. What? It's all about Mars this week, isn't it? So we did cover it, of course. We watched it live here. So if you haven't seen that, you might want to go back to our YouTube channel and just check out our live coverage from, when was it? It wasn't a week ago, was it? But it was a number of days ago now. I've kind of got a little bit lost. But yet we were talking all about Mars Perseverance, and we watched the landing on Mars. So it was absolutely spectacular. Everything went flawlessly, actually. It was unbelievable. Now, before we get into this, let me just try one thing with this widget. So I'm just going to make the picture go away for a sec, and it does take a few seconds, so just bear with me while I do this. I've got to try and reload that widget and see if it will connect with our YouTube chat. Oh, look, it has. See, that's what it's supposed to look like. It should do that automatically without me having to do anything. So, that's some progress though. So that's cool. Right, so let's talk about Perseverance. So we talked about it last week. We watched the whole landing and everything. We went through the whole entry, descent, and landing and watched it land on Mars. It was absolutely beautiful. Loved it. So since then, not a huge amount has happened, but we've had a few updates. Perhaps let's just look at the first thing about where they landed. I really like this. So this is a picture, it's actually a video. This is from before the landing. This is a computer-generated video based on the terrain data and everything. So this is where they were targeting the landing, and it was just a proposed pathway that the Perseverance rover might be able to follow. So it was all just very proposed, but the reason I wanted to show you this was the landing site. So that's where they were targeting. Let's just pause it there and have a look at this. So this is the spot that they were hoping to land somewhere near. Now, what I've done is I've actually lined that up with another photo, an actual photo that's been taken since then. This photo from one of the Mars orbiters, and this shows you where it actually landed. So you can see down here, this was the landing spot. Then you can see a couple of the other things, the back shell, descent stage, and the heat shield that landed elsewhere. But flick between these two. This was the proposed landing spot. And if you see these couple of craters, there's one here, a crater here, and then this sort of line along there. Then if we match that up with the actual photo of where it landed, you can see those two craters, the line along here. They absolutely nailed it. It's unbelievable. They basically got it spot on, exactly where they wanted to land. So that's really, really impressive. It's another photo that I really loved. This was again taken from one of the Mars orbiters, and you can see in the inset there the parachute with the lander and descent stage below it going into land. So this was just a moment or so before the actual landing. So really, really awesome. There hasn't been an awful lot since then, but it depends if you've been watching our Facebook page, because I did post one video. Space fans will have probably seen this already, but let's have a look at it. I've just got to find it. It's this one here. So this is a video. Remember, we watched the animation, the CGI animation of the whole landing process. This came out afterwards. This is the real video from the actual cameras. Before I roll it, let me just show you another picture. This is the descent stage and the rover, and it just shows you the positions of various cameras here. So we're going to start off with a shot right at the very top here with the parachute looking up cameras. Then we'll see a couple of shots from underneath and around it, looking at the different parts of it. So if we go to the video, the first frame of the video is actually right on the top of the back shell looking up as the parachutes are being deployed. So this is the first look it gets at it, and there's actually, they've overlaid the audio with it as well, so I'll play that as well.
Indicate chute deployed.
The navigation has confirmed that the parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration in the velocity. Our current velocity is 440 meters per second at an altitude of about 12 kilometers from the surface of Mars.
Now we're looking down.
Heat shield set.
Heat shield.
Perseverance is now slowed to subsonic speeds, and the heat shield has been separated. This allows both the radar and the cameras to get their first look at the surface. Current velocity is 145 meters per second at an altitude of about 9.5 kilometers above the surface.
Beautiful, isn't it? The video goes blank a couple of times here, and the bit along the bottom is showing you where they're up to. So we've had the heat shield separation, and we're looking at the actual terrain. There you can see those couple of craters and that line that I was talking about.
Nav filter converge. Velocity solution 3.3 meters per second. Altitude 7.4 kilometers.
Now has radar lock on the ground. Current velocity is about 100 meters per second, 6.6 kilometers above the surface of Mars. Perseverance is continuing to descend on the parachute. We are coming up on the initialization of terrain relative navigation and subsequently the priming of the landing engines. Our current velocity is about 90 meters per second at an altitude of 4.2 kilometers.
You can see the rover sort of moving backwards and forwards. It's swaying.
Valid.
We have confirmation that the lander vision system has produced a valid solution and part of terrain relative navigation.
Priming. TBA is nominal.
We have priming of the landing engines.
All right, you can see one of those craters there that we were talking about just before.
Back shell set.
Current velocity
That
is
movement was the
83
back
meters
shell
per second at about 2.6 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have confirmation that the back shell has separated. We are currently performing the divert maneuver. Current velocity is about 75 meters per second at an altitude of about a kilometer off the surface of Mars.
TRN safety Bravo.
Here we're coming in.
We have completed our terrain relative navigation. Current speed is about 30 meters per second, altitude of about 300 meters off the surface of Mars. We have started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the sky crane, about to conduct the sky crane maneuver.
There we go, that's the sky crane.
Sky crane maneuver has started, about 20 meters off the surface.
Stunning video, isn't it? I just can't believe the quality of this. It's amazing.
We're getting signals from MRO. Tango Delta.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the signs of past life.
So that was pretty special. I just loved seeing all the dust flow out as it was getting down, and just the whole thing was spectacular. Hey, UE3, have I pronounced that right? Nice to have you in here. Casey's asking, when are they going to use the helicopter? So the helicopter that came down with the rover, we've got a shot of it, I think, here. So this is a CGI image of both the rover and the little Ingenuity helicopter here. It's going to be at least weeks away, so it's going to be a few weeks yet. There's quite a process that they have to go through, so there's really not much happening just yet. Now, they don't want to draw it out for too long before they use the helicopter, because at the moment it's still stowed underneath the rover, so it's having to carry it around. So it doesn't want to do that forever. So as soon as they can, as soon as they're comfortable, they will start using the helicopter, but I understand it's likely to be at least several weeks away. So we've got to be patient. It's hard, isn't it? You just want to get stuck into it. You want to see all these things start to happen. So that's my understanding of it. So there was a couple of other things that came out. That was probably, or that was one of the two coolest things. For those of you who have just joined us, let's have a look again at the actual landing spot. So we saw those craters there on the video as it was coming in, and you can see where everything ended up. Just about the last shot of that video was the descent stage flying away and landing somewhere else. So that would have gone from the landing spot here and went and landed over there somewhere. So that was that. Now, once it landed, the next thing was to start getting some pictures. Obviously, we saw those first pictures from the HazCam weren't that great quality, but then we started seeing some of the actual good quality stuff. Now, actually, I've just had a thought before we go on to that. If you remember on the video, actually, let's go back on the video. I'll just find a still frame here. Looking back up at the parachute, I don't know if you've seen this, but the patterns around there was actually turned out to be a secret, kind of a secret message from the engineers at JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab, and it actually spells out in binary a secret message. So I've tracked down what it is, what it looks like. So each of those orange bits, those are like ones and zeros. That's what we're talking about. So the ones are the orange bits are the ones, the blank bits are the zeros, and it actually spells out "Dear Mighty Things," one of the mottos from the Jet Propulsion Lab. And the ones right around the outside, those are the GPS coordinates for the JPL lab in the US. So anyway, that was just a hard case little thing there. But what I want to look at next is the panorama that has come back from it. So this is, I believe so far, the last time I checked, the only panorama that they have released so far. And this is a special one that they do as soon as they possibly can. As soon as the cameras are ready, they want to get an image at least of all their surrounds so they can get their bearings and start having a look at things. So you can't see much on the view I've got here. I'll show you a closer view in a sec. So this is a 360 degree panorama. It joins, the left and right join around behind you sort of thing. And it's actually put together from 142 different images. So what I've done is I've zoomed in on it, and let me just show you the whole thing. So this kind of gives us a slightly better view, and we'll just pan around the whole thing there. So you can go and download the image, of course. It's a really nice resolution. It's not the highest resolution yet. We're still waiting for the really high resolution ones, and this is only one of the two cameras. Eventually this will actually be a stereo view. We've got the left eye view, if you like, so far, and we're still waiting on the right one. But this is what it looks like. So everything looks awesome. They've landed in a really good spot, and there's a couple of things that are probably worth looking at. Before we do that, let me just show you that panorama again, and I mentioned it's made up of 142 different images. So that's basically how it works. If we have a look at the rover itself with all its instruments, it's the mast cam Z that it's on, and if we have a look, you can I'll just try and draw a couple of arrows. There are two cameras in here in particular. Whoops, it's not very, I'm all over the place. There's one there, and the other one over there. So these are the two panorama cameras that they use. So for stereo, left and right. And just on either side of them are navigation cameras. So those two cameras near the middle, they can zoom in and out. Now they're not actually super high resolution themselves, but because they compile the images from lots and lots of different ones, they can end up with a really high resolution. So this picture shows you all the individual ones, if you like. Those red outlines are all the 142 individual images that they had to take. So I was watching an engineering video the other night with quite a long video with the engineering team, and there was quite an interesting little bit in it that showed you how they put the panorama together. So let me just play this for you. So the first image here, I couldn't quite grab the first frame of it, but this is one of the engineers talking about how it works, and the thing in the middle is showing you how they put together the whole panorama. Let's take it back as far as I can.
Here's how we laid out the panorama. You see how we start at the horizon? Where imagine being on the mast, you're looking one way and then looking next down we go as we take the panorama and building up tile by tile from the horizon and all the way down to the rover deck. 142 different frames. You can see we have focus on the hardware, on the landscape, and it's all put together into one sequence.
And so there you go. That's how they put it together, and that is how they ended up with this panorama. So maybe let's just pause it here. So there's in the panorama itself, we saw before where they've landed. If we have a look, let me see, I think I can see it on this image here. They're sort of down to the south a little bit in this one, I guess. So a little bit hard to see, but this whole delta area around here, this is one of the really interesting things that they are looking at, and the proposed path kind of brings it up here, around in here somewhere, and then off up there. But that delta is what they're really interested in. It's all the material that's come from this ancient riverbed and has kind of spread out all around here. So that's where they're hoping to find lots of interesting things. Now, if we have a look back at the image, you can see those mountain ranges in the distance there. There are two levels there, if you like. So I'll try and draw a line. The first one along here, you can see that sort of line of ridges that goes all the way along here. That's actually the delta. And then the ones in the background, that's the rim of Jezero crater, the whole crater they are in. So the first one there, that line along there, if we go and have a look at that thing again, that's this line of cliffs and stuff around here. And the other one in the background is these other mountains, the actual rim of the crater's a little bit further away. So that's what we are looking at in this image here, so that kind of gives you a bit of a perspective. Now I believe that the delta, the first line of ridges over there, is a couple of kilometers away. The edge of the crater, the more distant mountains, are something like about 5 kilometers away. So that's still quite a long way. It's going to take the rover quite a while to get even to the first bits over there, but that is all looking really promising. So what else did we have in the video? Let's just go around. I don't think there was too much else to look at here. The engineers did point out a couple of bits with the rocks and stuff, but they don't really know too much yet, so there's probably not much that we can talk about yet. But it does look really interesting. The scientists all seem to be really excited about it, so that's really encouraging. Now, actually, let's just pause it there and have a look at the deck of the rover there. So you can see some of the stuff here. Let's just go back a little bit. We did talk about it before, about where all of the instruments are laid out on the rover. We talked about that when we did the live coverage. But if we... Can you see you can see some of the calibration things here. In particular, there's one just over there. You can also see some of these other calibration images around here. So the one that's over there, I'll show you a closer view of that. I've got a picture of that just here, and this is what it looks like. So this is for their color calibration. There's also a shadow indicator there and a few other bits and pieces. So basically that's so that they can color correct if needed, because you do that in normal photography. Anyone who's into photography knows how these things work. You set up colors that you know exactly what color it is, and you know what that's supposed to look like under what we might call normal lighting conditions, so that if they look different on Mars, we can color correct them so that they so that we get the colors more or less what they are supposed to be. So this is a common thing, isn't it? People often ask about how processed these images are they really what you would see? Well, those calibrations really do help a lot. There were some other interesting things on there, wasn't there? I didn't quite catch all of these, but there's a few references there, so I can see, if anyone could help me out with this, these are the images off the Pioneer disk, off the Pioneer space probes that carried some information about Earth and people, so I'm pretty sure that that's the one off that rover. There seems to be a dinosaur there, some DNA and genetic stuff. Look at the solar system over here. This just looks like a rocket. I don't know if that's any particular one. I'm sure it has some significance. Maybe someone could help me out and tell me exactly what they are. Right, now let's see what's happening in our comments. Let's check this out. So make sure it's working all right. So now, how far will the rover travel to the Delta? Sorry if I missed you saying it. So I did say I think they said a couple of kilometres. It's something in that order anyway. Sort of 2 to 3 kilometres maybe to that first line over here, the Delta, and then several more kilometres, something like that, out to the actual edge of the crater. So I'm picking it's going to be quite some time away before we actually even get to the Delta. I believe that they don't even start moving for at least a week. So anyway, I think that's about all I've seen so far from the rover. It has been a little bit slow getting stuff back from them, but in this early stage when they're just getting everything set up, I think that's fine. We're just going to have to be a little bit patient. So I'm not sure if I have anything else to say about Mars right now. I suppose we could go and just double check on NASA just to see if anything else has come out very recently. I don't think there has. No, it's all about other stuff really here. So yeah, we've seen the videos and everything there. I actually normally go to JPL actually for this kind of stuff. So anyway, I think that's all I wanted to say about Mars really. What else did I want to talk about? Now, look, while I think about it, look, fire ahead if you've got any other questions or any particular topics that you want to talk about. A quick mention about COVID. I was going to say this at the top of the stream, but if you're not from New Zealand, we've just gone back into a higher level of alert because of COVID. What that means for the Space Centre here is that we are actually still open, but with increased social distancing, so you can still book and come for a visit here if you want to, but it is more of a drama, and to be honest, I might actually thinking about closing down until we get back out of level 2 again. I talked about the Astronomical Society, so that's all good. Now, with these sessions, another thing I quickly wanted to mention, it's going to take a while to get these ones on YouTube going. I mentioned before that I didn't do this on Facebook, and the vast majority of viewers that we normally get, it's something like 50 to 1 on Facebook. It's insane, but Facebook's a real pain, and I hate streaming on Facebook, so I'd rather get it going on YouTube. I'm going to try some different time zones, so if you have a preference for when you'd like to have chat sessions, just let me know. I'm going to try a few different things so that we can get some more international people coming in. Is there anything new in the solar system, Casey's asking? Not that I'm aware of. Now, as I have said to you guys recently, I'm afraid I have not been keeping up with the news as well as I used to when we were doing the Space Dave live show, because it takes a lot of time, and what with COVID and everything, I have just been having to concentrate on keeping this place up and running. But if we go through the few news items that I did have, let me point out first of all that if you go to spacecentre.nz/live, I'm using that page again, and I will probably try and link to any of the news stories that I've just been looking at. So these are the ones that I noticed this week. So if we are going to go live, feel free to go to spacecentre.nz/live and check out the news stories beforehand. So there's yeah, look, I won't worry about that. Let's just quickly whiz through some of these. It won't take long. This is a New Zealand story, Waiheke Island. Now, I actually had a couple of these guys came into the Space Centre about a week ago. It was awesome, from the Waiheke Dark Sky group, and they are in the process of applying for dark sky status. So if you're not familiar with Waiheke Island, it's an island quite close actually to the biggest city in New Zealand. It's just offshore, and I was surprised actually that they would try and make that a dark sky zone because it's so close to the city lights. But these guys tell me that on the far side, it's quite hilly. On the other side, they do get very dark skies, and apparently it's been going really, really well. They've been getting lots and lots of people from the city going over and checking out their dark sky nights, and it's really looking cool. So they have submitted their application. It's all in now, and they are just waiting to see what the results are. So we will definitely be keeping an eye on that. It's a beautiful place, Waiheke Island, and well worth a visit, and going to support these guys. So if you're in the Auckland region, after you get out of level 3, perhaps you might like to go and check out the Waiheke Island. Casey, not on Facebook. Yeah, I mean, I don't normally do stuff only on Facebook and not on YouTube, but I do some stuff, but I want to split it out more. And this kind of thing, I reckon, just works much better on Facebook, and it certainly is a lot easier for me. Right, what other news stories do we got? I'm just going to whiz through these, really. This was an interesting one, though. Some person or organisation has made this rocket using biofuel, and they've actually launched it, and it worked really well. They're not giving much away, so I can't really say much about it. I'm not going to play the video because it's BBC, and we get stung for copyright if we play any of their videos, so we can't do that. But it is interesting. I'm getting the impression that they are looking at waste biomass that they can process for their fuel. That'll be obviously a big step if they can make that happen. It's a problem in the space industry that we are so reliant on toxic fuels. Now, not all rocket fuel is toxic, but a lot of it is. So although it is possible to make environmentally friendly rockets right now, not everyone does it, and it certainly would be a help to have something like this. But I'm not jumping to any conclusions yet. Given that they haven't even told us what's in the fuel, I don't think we can read too much into it just yet. So here's they're still talking about COVID on stuff.co.nz. Let's just have a break from that, shall we? So this is one of the SpaceX missions, one of the private ones. I think this is really exciting stuff. So I believe there's at least a couple of them now, including this mission due to fly later this year, where this billionaire guy is taking several people up with him. They've got most of the people sorted out already, I believe. Now, I'm not quite sure when. I don't think they've got an actual launch date in mind yet, but they are talking about later this year. This looks like a really interesting mission. I was intrigued to find that there's going to be 4 passengers on board, but no actual pilot. So at first I thought, well, that's interesting. That's the Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin approach with their New Shepard. But I wasn't aware that they were going to be doing that with the Falcons and Dragons. So this is a Falcon mission where I think, reading between the lines, what I've got is that they've got a retired astronaut on board who's not actually a pilot, but is an astronaut, so would perhaps know what to do if anything went wrong. But of course, these missions can be run completely autonomously. They don't need a pilot. So I think I've got this right, that they're going to have 4 passengers with no pilot, but perhaps someone who could take over. So this is we're getting into the actual age of space tourism now. These are the kinds of missions that we've been waiting for, not just the one-off, really unusual, having to negotiate everything just for this mission. It's starting to look like we might be able to see some of these regular touristy type missions go. And although I don't really care so much about this mission itself, it's starting the next phase of regular access to space and eventually access for everyday people. It'll all happen too late for me. Don't know about you, Casey. You're a young man. You might be able to get into space one day. Not sure. Hey, Carsten, nice to see you. you found this by chance. I was saying before, Carsten, when I came in, I actually purposefully did not promote this one. I just wanted to see what would happen if I did it only on YouTube and didn't tell anyone that I was going to do it. So this kind of gives me a bit of a baseline where to work from. But if we do start doing this regularly, I'm hoping to make a regular time slot, or at least have some system to keep everyone up to date. Now, another news story, let's keep moving on, that this is an interesting one. I say that about all the news stories, but this is, excuse me, nuclear rockets are back on the agenda. They really are. The thermal nuclear, what do they call it? NTP, isn't it? Nuclear thermal propulsion, which is an old idea. Coincidentally, I saw an archived news item from a New Zealand newspaper in 1970 talking about exactly this. The moon landings were still happening, but they were talking about how to get to Mars we would need nuclear. But of course it went out of favour, I think mostly for political reasons, environmental concerns and stuff, obviously. And it just hasn't been talked about. It's just been a no-go area. Hey Wendy, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. But anyway, in recent times, it is back in the news again, nuclear propulsion. NASA is talking seriously about it. In fact, NASA is kind of driving this. They're out there asking for proposals and designs and whatnot. Here's an article from the NASA website. So that was just a week ago or so. Concept drawing, of course, they're a CGI drawing. But they are talking about the whole nuclear thing. So I'm finding it fascinating that this is back in the news again, because for most of my life that I've been interested in space, every time nuclear propulsion comes up, it just gets poo-pooed straight away. Like, you can't do it. It's not going to happen. People won't buy into it. And I think there is going to be a real problem. There's going to be a lot of pushback against this. But I hope they carry on with it. I'm a greenie. Definitely. And I worry a lot about the environmental problems of space travel. I'm actually a cautious fan of nuclear thermal propulsion. I think as long as we can figure out a good, safe way of getting it into space, then we're in business. But there's more to it than that. No one's ever flown in a nuclear-powered rocket. We do have to get over that public perception problem. So just to be clear, the nuclear part of it is not how they would get off the Earth. The proposal is that it would start off on a standard chemical rocket to get it into space. Then once into space, you would fire up the nuclear engine and that would get you anywhere you need to go. Now, once you're in space, I don't really think it's a problem having nuclear power. The only potential problem is going to be the radiation for the astronauts themselves, but there are ways that you can get around that. But you can't really pollute space with nuclear propulsion. It's just, space is just a big soup of radiation anyway, and I don't think that's a problem. However, you don't want a rocket in the Earth's atmosphere exploding with a whole lot of radioactive uranium on board. So you're going to have to find out a good, reliable, safe way of doing that, and a way that is palatable to the public. Okay, so we've got a few old regulars in here. Ashley, nice to see you guys. Ashley and team probably is hoping that Perseverance finds signs of previous life on Mars. Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? I think the bad news is that it might take quite a while. So as I understand it, they may well be able to find some signs of life just in the normal, in the upcoming months and years of Perseverance itself doing the study. But it's not going to be until they get those samples back that we are actually going to see anything. So you'll recall that it's Perseverance is grabbing these samples for a later sample return mission. So there's going to be at least a decade away before we get those back. So fingers crossed though, you never know, they're in the right place. The crater here, Jezero crater, the delta there that we were just talking about before. Fingers crossed, hopefully we'll find something. Right, let's get back to some of the news. What else? This one was about remote energy and beaming it back to Earth. It's kind of a little bit like the nuclear propulsion, isn't it? This is one that keeps coming up all the time, but keeps being dismissed as being perhaps a little bit unfeasible or certainly very sketchy. perhaps a little bit dangerous, where you're collecting energy from the sun and beaming it back to Earth using microwaves. Now, I think that there's certainly potential in this. I mean, it's really all about making it safe, I think. As far as I can tell, the physics of it works out okay. I know a lot of people talk about how inefficient it is, but I've seen arguments the other way around. For example, you can just keep collecting your energy the whole time you're in orbit. You might not always be able to beam it back down to the Earth, but I think that side of it's okay. You're just going to have to convince me that if anything goes wrong, it's not going to be like this death ray from space. Just, the spaceship gets tilted accidentally or something and it's zapping the nearest cities. But it's a little bit like nuclear propulsion in that it's gaining traction. There's more and more serious research going into it. So, yeah, it's something that has potential. It would be interesting to see where it goes. A quick reminder that you can see links to all these stories at spacecentre.nz/live. I have a little bit of an issue. I'm embedding a Google document in here. And if you try and just click on these links, it might not work. So you want to right click on it and open it in a new tab until I figure out a better way of doing that. What was the last story that I had here? Oh, yeah, private space station. Company plans to start building private Voyager space station with artificial gravity. That would be cool if they can do that. It's a big first step, isn't it? If you're a company that's building your first space station, to go straight for the whole artificial gravity thing is a big step. But I guess if that's what you're going to do, it does make sense to do it right from the start. So obviously this is a long way away. I'll just leave that as a link in there. It's from space.com. So, yeah, go and check that out if you want to. I wonder what's happening with Bigelow these days. Bigelow Aerospace. I haven't heard anything from them for a while. They've kind of traditionally been the front runners in Earth orbit space habitats, future space hotels and things like that. But, yeah, we should go and have a look and see what's happening with them. Right, Carsten. When you were born, there were 400 nuclear explosions in the atmosphere. I got that right? 400 nuclear explosions in the atmosphere. Wow, that's a big number. I'm just trying to get my head around that. That's a very big number. Was it really 400? Goodness me. Okay, we don't really want any more, do we? Not around Earth. Yeah, I'm okay with nuclear thermal propulsion, which is one way of using a nuclear reactor. But you are going to have to convince me that it's safe, of course. It's probably with just going back and clarifying one thing with nuclear power. If we go back to what we've just been talking about, Perseverance, now this is technically nuclear powered, but it's an entirely different kind of nuclear power. This is an RTG, not NTP. This is an RTG, or radioisotope thermoelectric generator. So basically this is just using a piece of radioactive material that is warm and using the heat from it to create electricity. So it's quite simple and really quite safe. Those were all the news items I had, and look, I can't actually talk for too long tonight because I've got other stuff to do. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm supposed to be speaking at the observatory in Hamilton tomorrow night about Perseverance, but because of COVID level 2, that's not happening. So any members, we are doing it online. So if you want to join in, you will need to contact the committee and make sure that you've got the link to join us online there. So with that, I actually probably do need to think about moving on because I have not really prepared my presentation for tomorrow night. And the people at the observatory are going to be asking me lots of difficult questions. I hope they don't ask me too many questions about all the instruments on the rover. Right, so hang on, Carsten, that was the pinnacle of the nuclear race, and they were banned a couple of years later, was it? Okay, so 1962, you're saying, when you were born, and they were banned a couple of years later. That's remarkable. I still can't get my head around that there had been 400 nuclear explosions in our atmosphere. So I guess that's why it mucked up all the radio dating, didn't it? You can tell all of these things when they use radio dating that when they started letting off nuclear explosions on the Earth. Okay, so look, anyway, sorry to get going, but I guess the takeaway from tonight is that some of you did figure out that I was going live, even though I didn't tell anyone at all. If you are keen on doing this, It would be really useful if you could post a comment under the video telling me what days and times you would prefer to have just casual chats. It doesn't have to be the same time every week. If you're from overseas, that's especially important because previously we've done it all for a New Zealand audience, and that's why we never get anyone from overseas. So I am going to start doing some stuff that are more suitable for overseas time zones. I think that was all I wanted to say tonight. Yep, that will do. Thanks, Casey. Looking forward to the next one. I will do some more. It's going to happen. We're going to keep going with this. Remember the Zoom thing? We're going to try that again, but I'm not too stressed about it. Actually, to be honest, that's largely when we want to get guest speakers in or there's a specific reason that we want to have video. But I'd love to be able to have guys just like you just popping in and joining by video as well. So thank you, New E3, Casey, Karsten, Wendy, Ashley and family. I think that's Hamish. I hope you made it back, Hamish. Nice to see you in as well. Thanks very much, everyone. We're going to leave it at that for tonight. But I really am hoping to do this much more regularly. So we'll catch up with you again all very soon. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.